Okay. And I'm going to share my screen. Share. Here we go. Okay. Are we ready?
Wow.
So,
Wow.
okay, can everybody see my screen? Can you see
Yes.
the PowerPoint? Okay,
Yeah.
so today we are going to do the Business and Ethics course that I've prepared for you. So it's part 1 out of 4. And just to alleviate any concern about scheduling, I know I proposed some dates, but at the end or, at some point we'll figure out a time when hopefully everybody can make it. Okay, but I'm
Awesome.
recording these in case that is not possible. So it's always better if we're all together. So, yes. So today we're going to be understanding the teacher-student relationship. So that's the goal. And basically, we are going to speak about branding and marketing, but I feel like it's really important as yoga teachers for this to come from a very authentic and true place where when we're taking money for our services, but there's, it's important that there's depth to what we're offering, and that your brand and your marketing essentially comes from that depth of this journey that you're on. So I love this quote from Donna Farhi, which essentially she says, when we're teaching yoga, we're holding a heart in our hands. So essentially we're holding the heart of our students in our hands. So just, being mindful of that. So the ingredients of an ideal student-teacher relationship. When a seeker approaches an enlightened teacher with the right attitude, discipleship, and with the right spirit of inquiry, at the right time and in the right place, communication of yoga takes place. So I love this communication, so it's not about the teacher being better than the student or higher. It's about a communication. We're communicating an experience that we've had. So qualities of an enlightened teacher: awareness of ego. So we spend a lot of time kind of exploring ego and just who we are and kind of pushing it away to be egoless. But it's also important as a yoga teacher and in business and in marketing, you're going to have to leverage your ego. So the first step to leveraging your ego is to become aware of it, and this kind of identity of who you are and what you're bringing to the table that's unique and different from everybody else. Okay. Full of love. So love is super important, and to cultivate this in yourself, as we've been doing with the Ayurvedic practices and all of this self-care. When you are really doing that, you're basically modeling that for your students. And so just going about marketing and business from a place of love. And then at the same time, to balance that, not afraid to set firm boundaries. So you don't want to be a doormat. You don't want people to walk all over you. So you're offering yourself and your love and your experience, but you're also setting limits and healthy boundaries for your students so that they can also feel comfortable and safe. Qualities of a student who is ready to learn from you: open and receptive. So you can't teach somebody who is not receptive to what you're teaching. It won't work. Respectful. It's important that your students are respectful towards the other students in the class and towards you. Non-judgmental. So that goes back to the first point, open and receptive. If there's a lot of judgment, it's going to be hard for any of the information that you're offering and for this communication to get through. Our job as teachers. So the teacher is able to recognize the qualities in the student that the student has not yet seen in themselves. So you've got a flashlight and it's dark, and you're basically shining it on the student so that they can see themselves. The teacher encourages the student to uncover these qualities and polish and refine them through practice. Okay, so now we're going to do an exercise. So I want you to take a couple of minutes, and I want you to reflect upon the impact of the teachers you've had throughout your life. So take a moment to reflect on different teachers. So it doesn't have to be yoga teachers. It could be a school teacher you had as a child, sports coach, piano teacher, or even a caretaker. How have they influenced you in a positive, hopefully positive, or it could be a negative way as well? So just take a couple of minutes and reflect on this. So let's actually do a little bit of a meditation. So if you just want to put down your pen, if you got a pen, and just close your eyes and sit up nice and tall. And so you don't need to actively think about people to begin with. Just take a moment to connect with your breath. So breathing in and just tuning into the sensation of the breath as it comes in through your nose and penetrates the deeper body. And then paying attention as you breathe out. So we're cultivating awareness and attention to our physical body, which immediately brings us into the present moment. And then just begin to reflect from the state of a teacher or a mentor you've had in your life who has inspired you. So what were the qualities of this teacher? And how did this teacher make you feel? And then take a nice deep breath. Full breath out. And if you want to take more time to meditate over that, you're welcome to. Or if you want to jot a few things down on your paper, you're welcome to do that as well. So the question is, what are the qualities about certain teachers that inspired you to find the path that you are on right now? I just want to double check. Monica, are you still with us? Because I can't see you for some reason.
Yes, I'm just on a different device, so yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and then if you want to keep writing about that, you're welcome to. And I'm going to invite you to also reflect on this next question. Can you remember some moments in your life when you felt lost and a teacher helped you find your way. So maybe if you felt like you were off track or just not sure about what the next steps were, or it doesn't necessarily have to be a teacher. It could be like a therapist, a body worker, or a friend. You know, teachers can come in many different forms, and sometimes they're not necessarily called teachers. You know, could be even like a niece or nephew, you know, somebody younger than you, or a child, but just a moment when you just were like, aha. Okay, how are we doing? Do we need more time?
I mean, I feel like this, I don't know if we can take the time that's necessary in this call.
Okay, so you're going to have time to go over this after the call as well, but I'm just sort of bringing it up now, okay? So now let's talk about yoga. So bringing this back to yoga. What is yoga, and what is the responsibility of a yoga teacher? So yoga is science, art, and spirit. In yoga, we observe how all life is interconnected, and that suffering arises when we perceive ourselves from cut off from the rest of life. Through our own perception and ignorance, we cause ourselves unnecessary pain. The practice of teaching yoga has been around for centuries. So I find it comforting just to know that, you know, what we are doing and what we're learning how to do here is something that it's not a new thing. So of course we're integrating the latest research and elements of, you know, contemporary society and adapting these teachings to be relevant for our lives right now. But these practices, they've been around for thousands of years, you know, and so there's comfort in that, you know, and they've helped so many people. So in terms of responsibility, truth and deep understanding are at the root of this practice. A yoga teacher must not only teach the talk, but also walk the walk. Okay? The only path to understanding is through practice. In the study of yoga, the teacher can lead the student only as far as she has gone herself. So it's important to practice, okay? So the best you're learning a lot in this teacher training, but you're learning it intellectually, right? So, and the practice and the real learning happens when you experience it in your body. And then to take it one step further, when you try to teach, even if you're like stumbling with your words, it's that practice of teaching. So doing yoga is a practice. Teaching is also a practice, okay? So let's talk about the 8 limbs of yoga. Do you remember them?
No.
No?
Yana,
Okay.
Niyama,
Uh-huh. Good.
Asana,
Uh-huh.
Pranayama,
Very
and then
good.
Pratyahara,
Mm-hmm.
the withdrawal of the senses, and then the concentration,
Mm-hmm.
and then the deep meditation, and then the super deep blissful meditation.
Yes. Okay. Very good.
Yes.
So essentially our branding and marketing and our business of yoga is going to stem from these 8 limbs. And that's how it's going to become truthful and authentic. Okay. So the first one is ethics, which is the yamas. Okay. So And I'm going to go more into detail into what this is. But basically, it's how we are in the world, okay? In relation to others, in relation to our environment. And then the second one is self-discipline and observation. So this is like, so ethics is like going out, and then niyamas is like going in. So it's how we are when nobody's watching. So how we treat ourselves. So this element of self-care and how we are towards when we look inward, okay? And then number 3, we have somatic practices. So soma means body. So essentially moving the body is asana. And then pranayama, breath awareness. And then we have pratyahara, which is recognition of what's important. So the letting go of transient things and emotions. Okay, so impermanence. And then we have concentration of the mind and life on things of lasting value, dharana. Okay, so 5 and 6 kind of go together. So impermanence and concentration. So when we, sometimes we can get distracted by things that are impermanent and we hold on to things, and that limits our ability to concentrate, right? So just being aware of those two. And then equanimity. Yasmin, you're going to learn a lot about equanimity.
I was about to say.
But essentially, equanimity. So when we have the absence of craving and absence of aversion, we have equanimity. So it's really being, I like to think of a figure 8. It's like being in the middle of the figure 8 and being very balanced and allowing everything to flow. Okay. And then that leads to liberation and freedom, samadhi. Okay. So these are the 8 limbs of yoga. So the underpinnings of the yoga tradition have to do with leading a moral life in which our actions are congruent with our values. So, fairness.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Going back to the 8 limbs, please.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference between pratyahara and dhyana.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I mean, it feels like I feel like they both have to do with this like unattachment.
Mm-hmm. So equanimity has to do with non-attachment, so that's part of it, but then also aversion, right? So when we avoid things that we don't like, we're not equanimous.
I see. Okay. I get
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
So it's like
Yep.
the balance of those two things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We'll do more questions at the end,
Okay.
and discussion. So fairness, kindness, and respect are all values that are keystones of the yogic lifestyle. Okay. And the essential nature of each individual is intrinsically whole, good, and free. It is your job as a yoga teacher to recognize these qualities in your students, even if they don't yet see them for themselves. And if they are already aware, help them to uncover and polish these qualities so that their path becomes more clear. Okay, so now we go a little bit deeper into the ethics, yamas, which are the outer observances. And this is about the inherent goodness. Sorry, the video is like blocking part of my screen. So just give me 1 second here. I just have to do a little technical difficulty. See if I can move this a little bit. There we go. And here we are. Okay, inherent goodness. So a description of nature that has been, of a nature that has been freed from the illusion of separateness. Okay. So, and I think separateness is a really important word, because when we feel separate is often when we suffer, right? So when we free ourselves from this illusion of separateness, we are able to have love and compassion for all things. So it's not like we have to try, it just comes naturally, okay? So, and this is nonviolence, ahimsa. So nonviolent, this isn't just no killing, you know, it's also your thoughts. So if you're having violent thoughts towards yourself or towards others, we want to practice ahimsa. And then this also goes with words, with actions. So everything you say, everything you do, you know, this comes back to how you are in the outer world, right? So non-harming to all sentient beings, we see the essence of ourselves in others and treat others as we wish to be treated. So with tenderness, with forgiveness. And one thing that's really important is, this is not something you have to say to yourself, oh, I have to be compassionate. I have to be compassionate. I have to love. No, it's through the practice of yoga. These things, they come, and you don't have to try, right? It is in the work that we're learning to do this. And then through that practice, you demonstrate this nature towards your students. You model this nature towards your students, and then they become inspired by you. And then they are also living in this way, in this lifestyle. Okay, so commitment to the truth, honest communication, healthy relationships, community, and government. Okay, so just being honest. And one thing to note is sometimes it comes back to intention, right? So if you're being honest with someone in order to hurt them, then that we wouldn't be practicing ahimsa, right? So you always have to look back to, like, you know, where is this coming from? The intent is very important. So non-stealing, generosity, abundance, open-heartedness. So when we live in this way where we see that the world is abundant, there's stealing no longer becomes necessary. Okay, and we can live in an open-hearted way, and we can be generous. Integrity. So in the yoga scriptures, they actually, what do they call this one? It has to do with, like, has to do with, yes, if you're in a relationship, so being faithful in a committed relationship, and containing one's own desires. So they also speak about being connected to the divine. And yeah, you just want to be careful with your energy, essentially. So if you're spreading your energy all over the place and you're not managing your energy in an effective way, then you're going to burn yourself out. So you want to live in integrity in terms of looking both inward and outward. And this comes back to equanimity as well. So not overextending yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, on all levels. And then we have non-grasping, non-craving. So letting go of ego, image, identity, seeing things as they are rather than as you wish them to be. Okay, and then we have the niyamas. So this is looking inward. So we had the yamas, outer observances. Now we have the niyamas, which are the inner observances. So living soulfully, how we live when nobody else is watching. So walking the walk. So purity, cleanliness in the body, mind, and speech. Right thought, right words, right action. So cleansing the mind, cleansing the body, cleansing the soul of impurities. Okay. And just going back to this one, I mean, if we think about the way that we brush our teeth, we take a shower each day, it's also important to do this for our mind and our physical body. And that goes back to the 8 limbs of yoga, okay, that we were talking about before. And so through these practices, we're also just washing away negative thoughts and coming back to this purity, you know, and purity in a sense of like when a baby is born or like a child, you know, children are so pure, you know, they haven't been, like it's just going back to this place of just seeing the world with new eyes. Okay. And so through our daily practice, we can come back there, and that's the goal. Contentment, santosha. So standing in your center, even in tough times, being strong. So when you stand in your center, your inner self remains untouched, unscathed, and you can make decisions, you can speak, you can think from this centered awareness. Disciplined use of our energy. So the tapas. So fire, heat of spiritual practice, clearing the slate of daily residues that can color our perceptions. Self-study, self-reflected awareness, the authentic life that we desire is as close as our nose. So often we go on these, it's human nature to search outside of ourselves for happiness or contentment, or but often it's right in front of us, okay, and it's always with you, it's inside of you, okay. And this is really what you want to share with your students too, is that I'm going to speak more about this later, but we're teaching them how to trust and gain that understanding that through practice they can find all the answers they need within themselves, okay. So surrender to higher self. We celebrate the fact of that we're alive, okay, and this comes back to love, okay, that you're part of something that's much bigger than yourself. You're part of an interconnected fabric of the universe, and that we're made of particles. And so coming back to this idea of separateness, that we're not separate. And when we tune in, when we tap into that fabric, we're tapping into love. Okay. So again, I have to move this thing. Sorry, guys. So it is our task to ensure a safe and effective context for this process to occur, using skillful means to ignite and sustain the fires of transformation, and providing ongoing support and recognition of the students' intrinsic wholeness regarding of where they are in the journey, or regardless of where they are in the journey. Perhaps this last is most important of all, because when we feel truly seen and recognized, we experience profound healing. So, teaching yoga is the science and art of living. So teaching yoga is more than just a series of postures. We're guiding students towards lifestyle changes that involve living in harmony with nature. As a yoga teacher, you also become a mentor. To be a mentor is to use your own wisdom and experience to facilitate blossoming of your students' unrealized potential. Mutual trust must be established first. The third Brahmavihara, quality of the heart, is to see and celebrate the good in others and celebrate another's success as your own. It requires a balanced and stable ego. So I feel like this is important to mention, just because as we move into this position as a mentor, sometimes your students will surpass you in their knowledge and understanding. And so that requires you to be very comfortable and familiar with the relationship with your ego, right? Otherwise it could turn into something where you have malintentions of holding your student back from blossoming, right? So it comes back to this interconnectedness, that we're all connected. So when your student blossoms, because you are connected, you are also blossoming without receiving anything in return. Just the practice of watching them blossom is a gift. Okay, so it's just important to celebrate your student's success, no matter how small. So a good mentor celebrates even the smallest improvements in the student. We are guiding our students to eventually be their own guide. And trust in their own intrinsic wisdom. So now we're going to talk about ethics and boundaries. So discipline limits in order to liberate. Some common yoga teacher archetypes. So these are all projections. So it's very common as a yoga teacher or therapist or doctor or, you know, any of these types of roles that your students will project onto you unconsciously. Okay, so there are many, but here's just a couple that are good to be aware of. So a healer. So sometimes people will come to you because they have something wrong and they may expect that you're going to fix them. Okay. So, and your job is to uncover this truth that it's the student's connection with his or her own inner wisdom that ultimately heals. So as a teacher, you need to ask yourself, are you depending on your student's adoration in order to validate your own self-worth? So again, coming back to this relationship with ego, right? It's very important because if we're not aware of it, we can make decisions or offer advice that is maybe not coming from the right place. So just good questions to always come back to yourself and come back to. Priests. So your students will also confide in you. They'll tell you, you know, about things they've never told anyone. So trust, integrity are very, very important. You're creating a sacred space and for them to connect to the divine and to ultimately download higher wisdom, you know, which is basically just their connection to the fabric of the universe. Parent. So common projections between teacher and student, authority figure and caretaker. Students project undigested childhood experiences and the relationship they had with their parents on yoga teachers. So sometimes there's a strong need for approval and recognition, reassurance of self-worth. So just important to keep in mind, you know, to be aware of. And it's not, you're not expected to be a therapist. And so it's also important that you, like if you are trained as a therapist, that you offer support in that capacity. But if you're not, that you're connected to people who can offer the support that your student needs if they do need further support. So building, we'll talk more about that in one of the next of these courses, but just building your network. So now we get to the homework. So you're going to identify your unique gift. So please work on this and have it ready for our next session, as we will be using it in the next module. So the first step in building our personal brand as yoga teachers involves becoming aware of our own ego and shortcomings in order to authentically market ourselves to the world. As a yoga teacher, you will unconsciously attract students that will teach you lessons you need to learn. These are also the students you will be able to help the most, as you have most likely experienced something they are currently going through and you can help to shine the light for them as their path unfolds. So here's the exercise. Reflect on 3 major challenges you have faced throughout your life. For each challenge, how did you respond? What steps did you take to overcome this challenge? What are some ways in which the practice of 8-limbed yoga helped you? Knowing what you know now, how can you embody the wisdom of the 8 limbs to overcome future challenges that may arise? Okay. So that's my presentation. Are there, do you have some questions or comments, or is there anything you would like to share? Yes.
Are we going to be writing the exercise part? What was the exercise?
The exercise. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back here. So can you see it?
I'll just write.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 3 major challenges.
Mm-hmm. Challenges. Okay. How did you respond?
Yeah, and so you can do this as a journaling exercise. So go through it and
okay, all right.
Yeah, and just write and kind of, you know, looking back at, let's go back here to these 8 limbs. One second here, 8 limbs of yoga. So this is like your kind of, this is your roadmap here, okay?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And maybe at the time that you face these challenges, you didn't have these tools. So you can reflect, but chances are you had some of them, you know? So maybe you were in a tough situation, you took a deep breath. Oh, well, that was pranayama right there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So some of this stuff is inherent wisdom, like we know it without learning it, right? And so just identifying the places that you know already and that you do naturally, and then identifying, oh, maybe I could work on this part next time, you know? Or maybe you had it all. Maybe you used all 8 of these and you were able to overcome the challenge with equanimity. So just identifying that and becoming aware of it.
It's a good one. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Oh, in the ethics and boundaries, when we were talking about priest, I think I was also at the same time trying to write it. That's why I missed it. So that how they say role of a priest, like the student seeing the teacher as a priest, it shouldn't happen. Or is it okay to happen?
It will happen. These are all things that happen, whether
archetypes, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like it's and depending on your nature as well, you know. Like for example, if you're a very caring person, which you all are, you know, sometimes people will like especially if somebody had problems with a parent growing up, you know, they're seeking, they're looking for a parent, you know, they're looking for a role like a father figure or something like that. So then automatically they look for these qualities in a teacher, you know, and then so it's you don't have to do anything. You can just become aware, oh, you know, observing, okay, this is what's happening, especially if you get into a situation where you feel like you don't have the skills to deal, like if you feel like somebody is coming to you, like priest, this could say therapist instead. Let's say it's like therapist, you know, they're coming to you, they're telling you, say they're going through something really rough, and you're like, okay, like this person, I don't have the tools necessary to help this person. I need to refer them to somebody who does, you know? So just knowing when, like where that line is and where you can offer support and, you know, when you need to reach out to somebody, or, you know, give them the number of somebody who has the tools that can help them.
Oh, I understood, you know, what department. Thank you. I mean, to be aware of that part of phrase, I accidentally took it as like to watch out, you know, to be careful of. But now I get it. I understand what you mean. Thank you.
Awareness, yeah. Are there any other
Awareness.
questions? Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Another typical projection is the yoga sex goddess.
Yes, I didn't put that on here, but definitely, yeah. So being aware of like the ethics of, we're going to talk about that in later modules, but just like the teaching
Right.
boundaries, that comes to boundaries, you know, and so like, and it's okay to be attracted, like say you have a student that you're attracted to, it's not bad to be attracted to them, but it's just, you know, you need to set the boundary of that. And like say you decide to have a relationship with that student, you know, that's kind of like a touchy area, and it needs to be done very delicately, because if, as you can see, they may be coming to you as a healer, a priest, a parent, you know, and so if you were to then have a relationship with that student, that could be very confusing for them, you know. So we're in also a position of, it could be seen, like, especially, I think this happens a lot with male yoga teachers, where, but it could happen as a woman as well, like where there's a power structure, right? And the student is vulnerable. They are coming to you from a vulnerable place. And so you have to be very careful and aware with how you respond to that. So we will talk more about that later, but it's just something to already start thinking about, you know, as we're working with, yoga is more than just physical exercise. We're working with all of these different layers of the mind and the heart. We're holding a heart in our hands. Okay, where is let's go back to this though. This one, yeah. This is the key slide here. So for this module. Anything else?
I mean, I guess I'm curious, just on the hindsight of this like power dynamic thing, when you were talking about the teacher-student relationship and the kind of key aspects of I don't know if you said good student, but something along that lines, is this respect thing. And I'm just curious from your own perspective, because you've had so much teaching experience. Like I can totally get the whole like priest role and how people come to you vulnerable. Like I've had that in my life, my whole life, even when I wasn't a teacher. And I've also had it since I've been a teacher for music stuff, philosophy stuff. But what about this whole, like when there's a disrespect? And I know this also has to do with boundaries and whatnot, but like that, the power coming from the other side.
You mean if the student is not respecting the teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, well that's when it really becomes a great time to exercise boundary setting, as you were saying. So for example, if somebody chronically comes late to your class, you know, that's a perfect example, because that's like, even like say you're offering a retreat and someone travels to the other side of the world, they've come all the way to the other side of the world and they're late for class every day. So it's like, it's confusing, because you know that they want to train with you. They spend all this money on the flight, on the accommodation, on the, you know, the course itself, and then they're late every day. So it's like, is that a sign of disrespect, or is that a sign of the person having something, some sort of blockage, you know, because you'll notice with students, especially, there are patterns. There are people who are always on time, and there are people who are always late. So through setting a boundary and not taking it personally, right? Not taking it personally. And I'm using this example, but this could be taken for any type of disrespect. So it's very important that you don't take it personally, because when you take it personally, then your ego gets involved, and then it becomes clouded of like, oh, this person hurt me, you know, or whatever. So essentially, ego aside, you set a boundary. Class starts at this time, and if you're not here, you can't come in. You know, and you're doing this not to be mean or strict necessarily. You are being strict, you're being firm with your boundaries. You're doing it so that the person can recognize that they have a pattern. And you're giving them the opportunity to change this pattern. Does that make sense? So it becomes less about like, of course, respect is involved in that situation, but we're also setting up a structure. And when you have this structure, which involves boundaries, like a boundary is like a fence, right? So you're creating a boundary. People can relax and they can uncover things about themselves because they have this structure in place.
Yeah, I was thinking more, for some reason I was thinking more about this like kind of aggressive male thing. Like if there are people that are kind of like, or maybe not even male, maybe some, I mean, there's also this dynamic between women sometimes where there's like a cattiness or something where people are kind of trying to throw their weight around. And yeah, and also just, I don't know if, I can't remember specifically the question, but it's just kind of like, yeah, how do you maintain, because there is like a power, basically there is some sort of power dynamic, right? Because like you are there in this leadership guidance role, and just curious. I was actually more curious about your own personal, not maybe specific, but like the patterns you've seen with people when they kind of, I would say, act out in this way.
Act out. With like a cattiness.
Yeah, or like I think maybe this whole idea of like throwing the weight around is something. You know what I mean? Just a disrespect from the students that comes not just in something that's something in that is not so innocuous as coming late, something that is more direct.
I think what we have to come back to is that type of behavior is never about us as the teacher.
Right.
You know, it's always about them experiencing something, unless you've done something to upset them. But if you've done nothing to upset this person, you know, and they're behaving in this way that's obviously disrespectful, by not reacting to the behavior, you give them the opportunity to observe.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's this, I see a pattern here as the teacher is a kind of a reflective surface. Yeah.
And it comes back to, I forget which slide it's on, but being grounded in yourself, you know? Yeah. So the more you practice these 8 limbs, the more you're going to be able to respond in those situations ethically, and not get involved in whatever the person is going through, you know, because if you're involved, if your ego is involved, then it becomes much more complicated.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Monica?
Hi. So far I have no questions. Thanks.
You have no questions?
No, so far no, thank you.
Okay, how did you do with the exercise? The first exercise, where was it? Let's find it. Reflecting on teachers. What came up for you guys with that?
Just a teacher's impact in self-confidence is extreme. It just can either soar or can plummet, and that's a huge responsibility, I think.
Yes, Absolutely. And are there, like, can you remember a time where one of those situations happened, or both?
Oh yeah, totally. I had in fashion school, I had teachers who told me I have bad luck with guys. Like I should go to therapy. Like things that after, it's only 5 years ago, but times have changed.
Yeah. Well, and oh, there she is. Hi,
Um,
Monica. You're muted though.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and that's a really interesting point, Mina, because you know that could be a situation like the teacher was like, "Oh, you need to go to therapy." So then it's like we have to be careful also as yoga teachers. We don't want to like be like, "Oh, you should go to
Apologize.
therapy," you know, like
Yeah.
so it's but if you can obviously see that like, you know, somebody is
it
asking
was
for
a
your
very different
Yeah.
situation. It was
no, but
that
it's just,
was not cool.
not very much awareness, but you can
Yeah,
see how
exactly,
it would
yeah.
be important. Our words are so important. Do you know what I mean? Especially,
Yeah.
and like people will come, you know, people will often cry. I remember once somebody cried, a
Yeah.
guy, he cried in Shavasana, and then he came to me and he was like, I cried in Shavasana, like, is that okay? Like, what should I do? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and so people are in this, they're uncovering parts of themselves that have never been touched sometimes, you know? And so
Mhm.
just, I think being a guide, being a mentor, being a reflection for people, those are all good ways to approach this and approach what we're doing here. Yeah.
Making people just feel safe. I think
Yes.
good teachers just made me feel safe when I was around them, that I can explore on my own.
Yes.
So I think that's a huge one, I think.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What other qualities? So safety was one quality. What other qualities do good teachers embody, would you say?
It's interesting.
Clarity.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I just want to add clarity
Clarity,
in their guidance. Yeah.
clarity, safety. Susan, did you want to add something?
Well, not answering that specific question, but what came up for me immediately when we did the exercise was this feeling of kind of like brightness,
Okay.
like, and being part of something.
Okay. Yeah. Being part of something that's bigger than just yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to do with the fact I was reflecting on like two specific teachers, and I think it has to do with the fact that in my history, because these were both school teachers, I was just like, I was often shunned as being a part. I wasn't really invited to play with kids. I wasn't a cool kid. I was made fun of a lot. I was bullied a lot. And so escaping that like status game thing and just being a part of the thing.
Being included.
Being included, yeah.
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 Okay.
So like that's, you know, and there's some sort of brightness where it's like, I think it actually, you said something on one slide about like being kind of recognized or mattering or something that somehow came up
Yes.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes like, for example, we'll talk about the internet in later lessons, but you may have an impact on somebody you've never even met, you know, and they may feel seen by something you wrote on Instagram or something you shared in a newsletter or a video that you made or a Facebook Live or do you know what I mean? There are multiple ways of reaching students, and the word student, it's very broad in terms of what the capacity to reach people is now with the internet. And so somebody having that type of experience, you may have people having experiences that you don't even know about, you know. And it's the same thing when somebody comes to your class. Say you go teach a class of 30 people, you may not everybody's going to come to you and say, oh, that really helped me, what you said, you know. But people are going to be responding to what you're saying and what you're teaching. And you're not always, and sometimes people don't come thank you at the end of class, and it's not because they didn't like the class, it's because they are experiencing something very deep, and you know. And so just all these things, like there's a lot going on, and it's important to recognize that. And I like the metaphor of shining a light on people, you know, because it's just, we're all on our path, and everybody is discovering things. And so you're there to kind of help people on this journey of self-discovery.
Yeah.
Yasmin, anything else?
I thought of also one teacher that I really, really, really liked, because he was also different from the teachers I was used to in high school. And I really liked him because he was like, he was really interested in you, like when you talk to him, and then he wouldn't be afraid to give his actual opinion, you know, regardless of his role as a teacher. I took that pretty authentic. So that's what came to my mind. Also, he was honest, but also kind. So if he didn't like someone's perfume, he would say it, but he wouldn't say it in a way that it would make that person feel bad. These came to my mind. I don't know, maybe because I was also like an adolescent, and I wasn't really taken as an individual, but still as a kid in my, you know, by my parents. That teacher, I still remember him today, because he did treat us like individuals, not as only like teenagers.
Okay.
Those are the things that came to my mind.
So honesty, kindness, treated you like an individual, brightness,
Yes.
Inclusiveness, authenticity, and safety,
And
clarity.
Definitely.
And Monica, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I wanted also to say that I, for example, like teachers that I feel like they know what they're talking about. So
Right.
not like they say something and no, wait, maybe it was different. Like they are not sure. I like when they know what they're saying, so you can trust their words, but also in the same time they're humble. So not like, yeah, I know everything, but like I'm gonna tell you stuff, but in the same time, like I'm gonna keep my modesty. So like this kind of stuff.
So certainty, modesty. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's a good list of qualities.
The other thing I thought of too is both of my teachers were kind of atypical. I think similarly to what Yasmin was saying, like despite the role of being a teacher, like they were accessible in a way. They did things a little bit differently than all the other, than what was expected of the normal teacher.
Approachable.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Good. Okay.
Funny people.
Funny.
Yeah.
Sense of humor.
Definitely.
Yes, laughing is healthy. Okay, everybody. So let's go back. Does anybody have anything else to add to that?
No.
So let's go back to this here. So, do you feel comfortable with this homework exercise?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So next, let's see. Let's talk about the schedule. Okay. Well, we have everybody here. Then we can just nail that down. So next Thursday, would this time work?
Yes, for me.
Okay, that was easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just do the same time next week, which is Thursday the 21st.
Great.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm writing my last sentence to say. Gotta write it
Yeah,
all.
so have
Yes.
this ready for next week. And reflect more on the qualities of teachers you liked. And if there's anything you want to add to that next week, we can talk about that. And we'll talk about more stuff as well. So, sound good?
Yep. Sounds great.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. It was so nice to see you all. Glad everybody could make
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you very much.
Yay. Thank you so much. Thanks for the awesome slides.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know how to turn this thing off. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Stop share. Okay. There we go.
Would you be able to share those with us as a PDF, maybe?
I could, but if you agree not to share them, like, just keep it for you, please.
It's just
Obviously. Yeah.
Okay. And also,
just so I can refer to some of those
yeah.
things.
And also, if you can keep the teacher training manual for you guys too. I don't remember if I said that, but like just all of that.
You did.
You can keep it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Cool. How's everybody?
It's already on 20 forums. No.
It's all over Reddit. No. How is everybody doing with their practice? Just while I have you on here, how's that going?
It's frustrating.
Susan has proposed the accountability thread, and we're connected on Google Hangouts, and we just report if we do meditation or yoga, which has been super helpful, and just staying connected, staying motivated.
Yes.
So that's super awesome. That was a great idea, Susan.
Thanks. It has helped a lot. I mean, it was hard for me because I was going through like a lot of struggle in winter, and then I had to put my cat to sleep, and so it's been a really rough time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there was actually a really beautiful week of like really intense daily yoga after that, and then things have slipped back into frustration. But it's been an interesting reflection on the benefits when it is happening.
Yes.
But yeah.
And also, part of this process is to learn to take refuge in your body. Okay? So even though maybe you want to just stay in bed, or I don't know what you guys do when you're not feeling well, but when you can train yourself to rely or lean on these practices, especially just getting your butt onto your mat, even if you just sit in child's pose for half an hour, if that can become a form of refuge for you, then you're going to see some big changes start to happen.
Yeah.
And it might be that you just meditate. It might be that you just do Shavasana. It might be that you just do child's pose, or you do triangle pose or one pose. Do you have any questions about the poses?
I have a question about the videos that we were supposed to send when we do the ABC sequence.
Yeah.
Is there a deadline for it? Like, until when should we send them?
If you can send it, can you send it by the end of the month?
Yeah.
Yeah?
What is that? I didn't see it.
When Rebecca shared the Flow Mindful ABC sequences, she asked us to record ourselves and send it back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I missed that.
Okay.
Either.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would love to see you guys practice. And just yeah.
Okay, just practice with also like with talking, or just doing the practice.
I mean, if like, okay, are you guys meeting up in person at all?
Yeah, once a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can record it can be super lo-fi, like those ones I shot in Costa Rica. Just set up your phone, and I just want to see if you can, ideally, if you can shoot each other teaching, like so that I can see you speaking and teaching, and that would be great. That would be ideal. But if it's just you practicing, that's fine too, and you can talk as you practice, or if the sound quality is crap, then just you practicing, whatever you can put together. Just anything.
Maybe we can do it in our next.
Huh?
We can maybe do it in our next teaching circle, because we're meeting soon to teach again.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can do it if it's fine with everyone else. Okay. It's good I know it now.
When are you meeting?
The 25th.
On the 25th.
Okay, perfect. So just after that, send a little video. It can be super lo-fi, just have fun with it. Okay. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
It's a good challenge.
It's what?
It's a good challenge.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And next time, like a challenge surfaces in your life, like a challenge, I want you to get excited and be like, oh, let me test this stuff out. Let's test this. Let's see if this works. I want you to be like a scientist, okay? And then you're also an artist, because you get to do it your own way, You get to, this is the structure, these 8 limbs. But be a scientist. Be like, oh, let's see if this works. And then, like a scientist, you need to document the process, so you need to write about it. Okay? Does that sound
I have
good?
to practice teaching in German, so
oh my God.
I'll send it in German.
Okay, perfect. Or if you're really keen, you do like the right side in German, left side in English.
Wow. Then wäre Betreffena 2.
Yeah, you can always use Sanskrit.
I have 5% charge. I'm going to go offline in a second. My charge is in the other room.
Okay.
If I go offline, it's because I have 7% charge.
Okay.
On my laptop.
Okay. Well, let's just take a moment to close this with a little quick meditation. So sit up nice and tall, close your eyes, and just feel your sit bones. And take a nice deep breath into your body, exploring your inner body, taking refuge inside your body with your breath. And just knowing that everything that you need is inside of you all of the time. All of this. You can look at the PowerPoint slides. You can review the video. You can, but all of the answers, everything you need is inside of you. And it's there all the time. So one more deep breath. And then open your eyes. Namaste. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye. Have a nice evening. Have a great day.
Bye.
Yes,
Bye.
exactly. Wow.